Hi all. First and foremost, this will not be a PG podcast, and major spoilers are ahead. My name is Wago13, but I'm better known as Vanna. I have no in-depth knowledge of coding, game design, or even writing stories for games. But I am a longtime creative writer and story reader. None of my opinions are professional, and I'm just doing this for possible story writers in the future, the need to talk about awesome story aspects and not bother my friends anymore. And, just for fun. Without further ado, my take on the story and story elements of Star Wars The Old Republic MMORPG. To those that do not know, MMORPGs are massively multiplayer online role-playing games. World of Warcraft is probably one of the most famous ones. I will be referring to Star Wars The Old Republic as SWTOR and rephrasing MMORPG to MMO throughout this podcast. I will also be mentioning aspects of the stories from Knights of the Old Republic 1 and Knights of the Old Republic 2, which are very old RPG games, single-player RPG games from at least 10 years ago. Maybe 20 at this point. They were super old. I'll be referring to those as KOTOR and KOTOR 2, and very minor story elements will come and be translated into this podcast. So, in this first part, I'll be covering the main story up until the first expansion, which kind of, it's a little awkward with the first expansion, so I'm just going to kind of do my best. Okay, so if you're Empire, you either start on Hutta or Korriban, with Hutta being the starting zone of the Imperial Agent and the Bounty Hunter, and then Korriban, obviously, the Sith Warrior and the Sith Inquisitor. If you're Alliance, Republic, you start on either Ord Mantell or Tython. Ord Mantell is the trooper or the smuggler, and Tython's obviously the Jedi Counselor and the Jedi Knight. From there, after those two planets, you go to your respective either Dromund Kaas or Coruscant. This is it's kind of hard because of KOTOR storylines. Coruscant has been attacked by the Sith, but it's not, it's like it's recovering from ruins. It's a little confusing to me, but it's there. Kaas is just Kaas. So then it changes between the Republic and the Empire, which order you go into these planets, but the planets you'll then follow is Balmorra, Nar Shaddaa, Tatooine, Alderaan, Terrace, Quesh, Hoth, Belsavis, Voss, and Corellia. I think for the most part, Belsavis, Voss, and Corellia are the same order for the Empire and the Republic. I can't remember exactly. Each world has a world quest and a story quest. Besides the starting worlds of Hutta, Korriban, Ord Mantell, and Tython, those only have story quests, or personal quests, I guess I should say. I'm going to call them story quests because they're much easier. Kaas is basically riding slaves, the Shadow of Revan cult, or the Revan cult, a crazy Sith Lord named Grathan, and the Dark Temple kind of all going insane. Coruscant has like 4 different vectors, or city sectors, I should say, that have gangs of some sort controlling them. And then the Works, which is controlled by crazy robots and beasts. And then the ruins of the Jedi Temple. It's a thing. Balmora we're going to talk a lot about later, so I'm going to skip Balmora for now, just because it has a major thing for me in it later on. But Balmora, fight. Up until Quesh, they're under the Treaty of Coruscant. I looked more into the Treaty of Coruscant. It was signed during, I think, just before the beginning of the game's timeline. It ended the Great Galactic War and released the Second of Coruscant and the capture of Coruscant back to the Republic, but declared the Sith the winners. It's a little confusing, but it was basically a Cold War like America and Russia had. So it was kind of cool, but it's still a little weird. But that's what basically the Treaty of Coruscant was. It was basically the Sith patting themselves on the back, saying that they won the war, and then throwing themselves into a Cold War against the Republic. Nar Shaddaa is just, you're going around Nar Shaddaa doing quests for people. It's kind of just fighting gangs again. It's basically Coruscant 2.0. Tatooine, you're on the Empire side, you're following I guess on both sides, you're looking for a hidden Zerka base that has this ultimate power or ultimate weapon in it. And depending on the outcome, you can either give the weapon to your side or you can destroy it. It's a whole thing. Alderaan has the warring houses. If you're Empire, you get House Thule. If you're Republic, you will get House Organa. And then you're fighting House Ulgo, who currently has the crown because they assassinated the previous elite. It's a whole thing. Basically, you're just fighting for the crown. That's basically half of the story. Terrace this is after Darth Malak has destroyed Terrace and leveled it. You are back there. The Republic's trying to reclaim it. The Empire is trying to kick them out because they don't want to. You do get to see the Endar Spire, which is a whole thing in KOTOR, I believe. I haven't played KOTOR recently, but I believe it's a whole thing in there. That's pretty cool. Like, Terrace is probably one of my favorite places. You can also see the Rakghouls, which are a whole thing in KOTOR. Quesh is a poison planet that, with the help of some huts called the Three Families, they're helping either side to make stims out of the venom that the Quesh makes. So it's kind of a whole thing. And that's, by the end of it, the Treaty of Coruscant's broken. So, I don't know why it does it 6 planets in, but sure. Hoth is a nice planet. It's you're fighting for a starship graveyard. That's the entire story of Hoth. It is not my favorite world. It does have Tauntauns though, so I mean, that kind of Tauntauns and Wampas. Belsavis is a prison planet that the Republic made a prison on it for the worst convicts. I'm going to mention that the Republic made the planet into a prison, but it was already a Rakatan prison, and that's why in the Deep Planet where the Dreadmasters are, looks Rakatan. And you're going through all these Rakatan places. You're fighting the Eshkau halfway through. Belsavis was not made by the Republic. The Republic just kind of took it over and reworked it. And I forgot to mention this later on, but on Belsavis, if you're on the Republic side, the Senator and a prison warden are working together to pit aliens against each other. And they're doing this in a project called Project Noble Focus. This again brings back the whole thing of the Republic's desperate. I go into a little bit more. Also on Belsavis, one of the first things you learn is that the prisoners there are generations beyond the actual imprisoned person. Like, these are the children of the prisoners. and they're still imprisoned because of their ancestors' crimes. So that kind of gives me a what the fuck? What are you doing? But yeah. The Republic is trying to control it again. The Empire's trying to cause more chaos so they can get the Dread Masters from the deep, deep prison. The Republic's just trying to, not lose the planet and not lose their minds. But they do have some morally gray things, which I will come back to on that one as well. Voss is the tryptophobia's worst nightmare. Voss is a planet that has some very interesting history in which the Empire and the Republic found it before, but then they lost it. But on the Empire side, you learn that a great darkness in it was brought by the Jedi so that the Voss could learn how to use the Force powers. The Gormak, who refused to use the Force powers, started fighting. It's a whole thing. The fighting is making the Dark Heart more powerful, and depending on what you want, you can stop the fighting or let the fighting keep going. It's your choice. And then Corellia is just Corellia. Corellia is one of the core worlds that joined the Republic at first. Both sides see that the counselors of Corellia have signed over to the Empire because they lost faith in the Republic. So the Empire is fighting to keep Corellia, and the Republic's fighting to get it back. I kind of said here, it's the same thing, but the Republic's trying to prove to Corellia that they will protect them, that they should not lose faith in them. So yes, the Corellia is officially signed over to the Empire, but the Republic obviously will not let that go, and they're fighting to prove that they will protect their core worlds. They will protect what's part of their overall Republic. I don't know which one is in canon that they win Corellia. I think technically in canon the Republic wins Corellia because of later story, but I don't know if that one for a fact. I should have figured that out before. But that's the first part of the story without going on to the next worlds. Into the next expansions. So, and this part I'm going to explain the difference between a world story and a class story, because I realized I was talking about it and I didn't explain it. So a world story is the story of the world, which is the stuff I was explaining, like Corellia is at war and Quesh is the poison planet fighting for stims. The class story is specifically what class you are. So Smuggler is doing smuggling stuff. The Jedi is saving people, or killing them if you want to be a Dark Jedi. It's literally your choice. It's fun. It's a little awkward, but it's fun. Troopers being, well, a trooper, they're being that. And I'll expand a bit more on two of the classes later on, because they have fantastic stories and I love them. Which actually I'm going to go into right now. So I absolutely love the class stories. They are probably one of my favorite things in the world. If you're an Inquisitor, the first chapter is you are the apprentice to Lord Darth Zash, who is trying to take over your body, and it fails, and she gets sent to a Deshad named Kemval, who is your companion. And then it's a whole thing with Darth Thanaton, and getting onto the Dark Council at the very end. It's pretty cool. It's kind of just like you do the story of the characters. So from Acolyte to Dark Council, from Acolyte to the Emperor's Wrath for the Warrior, from Starting Agent to the Imperial Ghost, as they call you later on, the Imperial Agent. And then from a no-name bounty hunter to the best bounty hunter in the galaxy for the bounty hunter. Same for the Jedi side, the Jedi Sage, or I don't think that's what they're called. I think Consulars are what they're called. Jedi Consular has, they learn a very secret healing ability, and then later on you learn who the Children of the Empire are and defeat them. The Knight is actually probably one of my favorite stories, but as a Jedi Knight, you train from a Padawan until eventually you kill the Emperor, the Sith Emperor, which is really freaking cool. Which I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. There's a lot of that. Smuggler, you are a well-known smuggler. You lose your ship at the beginning. That's the whole quest. And then by the end, you are one of the queens or kings of the underworld. You're the leader of the underworld because, great smuggler now. And then Trooper, you go from being betrayed by your group, Havoc Squad, to leading Havoc Squad. I'm going to explain a little bit more about the Imperial Agent and the Republic Troopers, because those two are probably my favorite, like 100% my favorite. Because in the Imperial Agent, I'm just going to call them Agent from now on, the Agent storyline, you find a conspiracy by a Darth to take over the Empire. You defeat the Darth, and then they do this really well. You are newly assigned after defeating the Darth, but everything seems weirdly shifted, like you missed a couple of months. And no other storyline does this, just the Agent, and it does so well. Later on, you infiltrate the SIS, but that's when the SIS turns it on you that they know that you now have, basically, they can control you. There's codes in your brain that they allow you to control you. And that's the whole entire thing for Chapter 2 is you're trying to break the conditioning. You're trying to get out of the control of these people. Which you do, obviously. Chapter 3 is following a secret society, secret group that's trying to control the universe. And it's made up of these big names like Noctran and I forgot who else was in there. It's these huge names. And obviously you break it. Which I didn't mean to do this, but I did it by accident. 2 Sith come at the end of all of it, and they're like, okay, cool, now give us this codex. And I totally, me being paranoid, I was like, how did they get here so fast? I literally just defeated them, the person. I'm like, no. I give them a holo communicator. And my companion's like, what are you doing? By the time we get back, and that's why you become the Imperial Shadows, because you take yourself out of the database because of all the stuff that Imperial Intelligence did to you. Basically, they controlled you for a while. They didn't give you a will. I'm going to mention I have not played the opposite side of that, and if you give the Sith the Codex, and chapters 2 and 3 run along each other, because one of the SIS agents you work for in chapter 2 betrays the entire SIS group, while you have the choice of either killing them or letting them go. And you're doing that after you break your conditioning. In chapter 3, you're hunting this guy down, because he's part of this whole conspiracy. So, again, I didn't give the Sith the Codex, so I don't know if you become the Imperial Spy, the Imperial Shadow, pardon me, from that still, or if you're just that. But it does equate later on when you're going to other planets in the later expansions that they don't know what to call you because you're no longer technically Imperial Intelligence. You're no longer an agent. You're the Shadow. So they just kind of give you the they give you the title Commander and just go with it. So, yeah, that's a cute little tidbit in there. Now, the Trooper kind of has a boring story. But I'm going to highlight the end because it segues into my next bit of this podcast. Troopers, you're basically just going up in the ranks. I think you end on... I can't remember what it is. I think it's major, and then you get in the super, super later stories, and then, like, 2 expansions later, you get colonel. Which I will explain. But at the end of it, you capture this, like, the best Imperial general that they have. Like, this is the guy that, like, bombed Coruscant and did all these attacks and everything, and you capture him. You have the option to kill him, but obviously you've been asked to bring him in alive. So I played the story as if I was a trooper following orders. So you bring him in alive, and the Supreme Chancellor Suresh, who is another person we're going to talk about very soon, because I do not like her, but she works perfectly well, says that she is releasing him for... release him back to the Empire for like 200 prisoners of war or something. And you and General Garza, who's the Special Forces General, and you were the leader of Havoc Squad, who is like the best squad in the the Republic. You're just like, what? But he's like, we can get more. It feels like you've had him for like 5 minutes, and they're just like, bye. I'm just like, what? No. But you don't get a choice. It just happens, and you're just like, aces, okay. So I just don't realize this makes me sound like a complete asshole. But the way that Suresh presents it to you, the idea that what she's doing is she didn't give you a choice, which still makes you sound like an asshole, but it's kind of a thing of where it feels like they're hiding behind their words. Like, they're doing this for a different reason, but they're telling you it's for this reason. They are like, cool, we're getting prisoners back, but it's also just kind of like, but we've had him for 5 minutes. Have we even tried to interrogate him? Have we tried to do anything? Or is it just immediately hand back? Because that's what it feels like. You never see this general again, because I'm pretty damn sure Bioware forgets about him, and that's cool. Or I forgot about him. I don't remember his name. But yeah, it's kind of like this thing of like, it feels like there should be something more done to this high-ranked general than just, we've had him for 5 minutes, we're gonna give him back. That still makes me sound like an asshole, but just the way they said it, the diction. But this is the point of the podcast that I'm gonna say a statement that I've figured out, and I really don't like to say this. The Republic is worse than the Empire in this game. Which is a statement that I never thought I would say. Because I've seen the movies, I've played a lot of the old Star Wars games, I read a couple of the books, not all of them, but I read a couple. And it seems so weird that the Republic would be so bad in the Empire, and it kind of makes sense in the story, from a story writer's perspective, because it's like, well, you have to show that they have to have the options of betterness, and you have to be the bigger person. But the Republic doesn't really do that. So I mentioned I was going to talk about Balmorra. So on Balmorra, for the Republic side, you were after a super weapon called the Barrager, in which the super weapon will drain all the energy and resources from a world, I think, to defeat a fleet or a dreadnought or something. It's very reminiscent of... Why is my brain blinking on me? Like, the most recent things. It's like, what? And while you're going through this and you learn this at the very end, you're like, you have the option of destroying it or giving the codes to a military person. And you're just like, I've only done it once. I've only given the codes once, and that was because I was a dark Jedi. For specifically that reason. Because I was like, what does this do? But it's like, when you go back to this general, he chose you out earlier for saving humans, or for saving Twi'leks, opposed to helping him keep buildings, like, from being destroyed. So he chooses you out for that, but then he also chooses you out for destroying the Barrager. And it's like, but you're the Republic. You should be good. But it's not. It kind of throws you for a curveball, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do here? And there is a option for when he chooses you out for the Barrager distraction to say, but that's not who we are. That's not what we do. And he still goes like, fine, whatever. I'm glad you had that option. I'm like, no, that's not, whatever. It's a really weird dynamic between the Republic and the Empire in SWTOR. I did mention Chancellor Suresh. I'm just gonna call her Suresh from now on. Suresh was the governor of Terrace while they were doing the reconstruction and everything. She replaces the Supreme Chancellor when he's taken away by bounty hunters later on. I think in chapter 3 by the bounty hunter, you have to take him or kill him. It's one of those options. And she's really special. Like, she's very warmongering, and you wonder why she's in charge and why she stays in charge for so long. I'll talk about her when we get into a little bit more of her characterization when we get into the later stuff, because it's just like, I can't believe it. Yeah, it's just kind of like the Empire feels, the Republic feels desperate to win against the Empire. Although we know, for those that don't know, KOTOR and SWTOR are supposed to happen eons and years before the movie lore. I don't think they're technically canon, SWTOR or KOTOR. But they are supposed to happen way, way earlier, and not supposed to be anything to do with Star Wars, the current Star Wars universe from Disney and Lucasfilms or whoever else is owning that. The current stuff. The actual movies. That's not, I don't think it's canon, but it's there. But yeah, and then I also mentioned about Voss and how the Jedi did what they did with the Dark Heart and converting, and yeah. Let me just say, if you have tryptophobia, Voss is kind of your, like, probably your worst nightmare. So, now that I'm talked enough about that, so in the first expansion quotes, I guess technically they call it the first expansion on Wikipedia. It's called The Rise of the Hutt Cartel. You go to the planet Ilum. I don't think technically that's part of the Rise of the Hutt Cartel. I think that's just the ending of the main story. But you go to Ilum to get kyber crystals. I don't think they're called kyber crystals. Adigan crystals. And keep them away from the opposite faction. And then Darth Malgus portrays both sides, because he's double agent working for both sides. Takes the Deegan crystals, makes a stealth armada in which you do 2 very awesome but very long flashpoints, which are dungeons, and destroy his base and then destroy him, which is cool. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite. At least the second one. The first one's a little bit more annoying. After that, you head into the Rise of the Hutt Cartel, which you are sent to a planet called Makeb, which, on the Republic side, you are trying to save the citizens from the collapsing Makeb. at the guidance of Suresh because she thinks she's going to get Makeb, but doesn't know that the world's collapsing. The Imperials try and save Makeb so that they can take the precious resource that the Hutts were getting, which is Isotope 5. Which, as far as I could tell, this kind of makes their engines better. I think they gave you a better explanation, but I've done it so many times that I kind of just autopilot that world. Both times you're fighting Hutts, you're getting off the planet, you're saving civilians, or speeding up recovery. Both times you get to fight a Hutt, and it's pretty cool. You stop the Hutt cartel from gaining power again to do the Hutt Wars. It's a whole thing. After that, you start going with my two favorite characters, Theron Shan and Lana Beniko. Theron Shan on the Republic, Lana on their Empire. In which you attack the opposing starting worlds, so Empire attacks Tython, Republic attacks Korban, and then after that you go and save your respective worlds, so Korban and Tython again. But then it doesn't really make sense why the opposite side would attack while you were attacking theirs. And so you, Theron, and Orlana will kind of figure this out and follow either Darth Arcus or I think his rank is Colonel Derek, to Manan, which is actually pretty fun. You go to the Manan, and you fight through you fight through Manan, unfortunately, because I don't know why, because they could. You save Jakaro in C2D4, who is just a head on Jakaro's chest. But then you also learn that they are Revenites. Arcus and Derek are Revenites. For the Shadow Cult of Revan, which is in itself a thing. Pausing that storyline there, Revan is the main character for, I believe, KOTOR 1, if I remember correctly. I think he gets mentioned in KOTOR 2, but he was a Sith Lord, but he was defeated, drained, and amnesiaed. I don't know if there's a proper term for that. He lost all his memories of being a Sith Lord and his force powers, and then sent on his way to a random ship. And then he learns it, and then in RPG you could either go back to being a Sith Lord, or you could be a Jedi Knight. In this case, SWTOR takes that he was a Jedi Knight and a Sith Lord. So he's, by all technicalities, a gray Jedi. But, kind of weird. So he's been on both sides. And that's where the Shadow Cult of Revan is there. It's very prominent. It's very... we have minor issues with it because in KOTOR, Revan can be a male or a female, but in SWTOR, he's male. That's the thing. Going back to Manan, after you rescue Jakaro and D4, Arcus and Derek kind of like, ha ha ha, you're too late. We've already made a cyborg army. Bye. And then blow up the lab, and you have to escape, in which you meet the opposite faction's spy. So you either meet Lana or you meet Theron over holo communication. And that's where you all team up. Which is fun. So you are either a Sith working for an SIS agent and Lana, or a Republic agent working for Theron and Lana. It's very interesting. I actually love that storyline so much. You then... So you then go back to your respective fleet, so the Imperial fleet or the Republic fleet, get a notification from Lana or Theron that they're going to Rakata Prime and that you should meet them there. So you go to Rakata Prime, and then on that planet, you fight your way through Rakatans to the main temple, where a version of the Infinite Engine is, where they're making crazy cyborgs and crazy powerful cyborgs. And it's a just big, long fight through. And at the end, you also fight Derek and Arcus as they're trying to escape. But as they do, as you kill them, and as you're just like, what's going on? 3 ships come out of orbit. 1 comes down into the atmosphere of Rakata Prime, which I think that breaks canon, but I will deal with it because it's a cool thing. It looks amazing. And an image of Revan appears in like giant like glory. It's kind of hilarious. And he taunts you, and then he starts blowing up the temple you're on top of, and so you book it out of there on the shuttle that Arcus and Derek were going to escape on. You survive, but then you learn from Lana and Theron respectively, or independently, that they are now wanted by their side. So you meet them on Manon. They tell you that they're going to go silent for a while, and that they'll contact you when it's time. Me being the person that didn't play this expansion until way later on, it just kind of goes bum, 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 and it just keeps going. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like little like pauses between, but it's really basically just goes. The next time you're contacted is actually in probably one of my favorite ways that they've done this, because it's different for each character, each class, is you will get a message to go to, I'm blanking on the name, hold on. You get a message to go to Rishi, which is a pirate world, and it's really fucking cool how they do that. I love it to bits, because you gotta go be a pirate for a world. And I'm like, it's really freaking cool. And it's just, the world's amazing. On Rishi, you will go through a very small chain of events to find the benefactor, quote unquote, of these weird stories that are saying you're a fearsome pirate or you're a fearsome cannibal pirate. Lana went a little crazy with that one. And then you meet Lana and Theron. They tell you about Revan and the Revanites and how they're setting up on this world. And then how you have to kind of disrupt them. So you do that. You disrupt this pirate gang. You disrupt the Mandalorians that were working for them, but they left Revan. And yeah, you kind of get like yeah, we're not helping you, but good fight. You meet Shae Vizsla, who comes in later. She's pretty cool. Probably one of my other favorite females in the world. And then you fight the Revanites. Theron gets captured while you're chatting with Torch, Shae Vizsla. And then you have to go track down Theron and save him. Theron Shan is the... Oh God, here I go. Great grandson to Revan? Because Revan and Basta the Shan had at least a daughter who was Satil Shan, who was the leader of the Grandmaster of the Jedi Order. Who then she had a son, so yeah, grandson. I didn't think Jedi had that, but sure, whatever. Moving forward. So Revan and Theron chatted, and they learn where Revan's going now that we've kind of ruined his plans here. He's going to Yavin 4, which I'm pretty sure was in one of the old Star Wars games, but I can't remember which one it is, and I think it was Academy. And it's just like this dark world, and it's like fun. So you take your fleets with Darth Mar and Satil Shan's personal fleets, kind of helping you back you up so you can take care of Revan before he as we learn, awakens the Emperor again from his death slumber, because he's a ghost, but he doesn't want to lose hold on humanity, so he doesn't disappear like the others, so he's fancy, whatever. So you do a bunch of quests on Yavin 4 to figure out what he's doing, and you learn on Yavin 4, because you don't know if it's actually Revan, it's just a guy wearing Revan's attire. But on Yavin 4, you meet the ghost of Revan. And the first time I did this, I was so fucking confused. I was like, wait, what? And then you eventually do a whole thing, which it does actually give you the option to doing 6 daily quests and killing 4 people, or doing an operation, which I'm pretty damn sure is a raid in SWTOR terms, but I'm not quite sure. I've never done the operation. I wish I have, but no one's ever there. So I just do the daily quest and do that. And then you eventually get to fight Revan, which is a really cool fight. It's annoying as hell, but it's a really cool fight. You get to team up with Mar and Teal, Theron, Lana, Jakaro, Shea Vizsla appears. It's a fantastic fight, and I love it to bits. And by the end, it's too late, and the Emperor has enough power that he kind of just and then gone. That's what I'm going to call it. He's as high and then goes. He's not in physical form, but he's much more powerful now, thanks to us murdering a bunch of people on our way here. On our way to Revan. And then Ghost Revan appears, and we kind of figure out that the Jedi side of Revan kind of went to rest, but the Sith side of Revan did not, and so I'm not quite sure what they do, but the ghost absorbs the other part. Revan's dead. Hip hip hooray, we're gone. The temporary alliance between the Empire and the Republic's over, and that's that. I'm not quite sure what happens there. And then we're following the Emperor. We follow him to Ziost, which is a Sith world, which we've never been to, but it's apparently a super important Sith world. But I don't remember it from any games, so I'm assuming they're just making it up. Or they take it from a book, whatever. Or I just haven't played KOTOR in forever. We fight our way through a bunch of possessed people through Ziost, which in this case, if you're doing it completely, like the story completely, the one I would recommend, like the class I'd recommend, is actually the Jedi Knight, because you have that interaction. If you killed the Emperor first, and then you just keep talking to him, and he keeps going, and he actually interacts. Like, the lines are unique for the Jedi Knight throughout the entire, like, the rest of this, and it's so cool. It's like one of my favorite things, just having the Jedi Knight there, fangirling over. You fight through Ziost, the Emperor, obviously, who is in this version vitiate. I'm saying this for a reason, because it gets super confusing later on. Vitiate gets enough power, and then Yoan buys out of there too. He kind of, it's like evil cackles on his way out. He'll see me again. It's a thing. And you're just like, okay. You do kind of kill a lot of people, though. It's oh yeah, and the Emperor Vitiate wipes all life on Ziost out while you were just so happen to be up in the space station. So you're fine. Main character armor is all good. Yeah, so Ziost is a wasteland by the time you leave, unfortunately. It is a pretty wasteland, but it's a wasteland. So this leads us into the third expansion, because the second expansion was Shadow of Revan. The third expansion of Knights of the Fallen Empire, which I'm pretty sure the Ziost was a prelude to the Knights of the Fallen Empire. Knights of the Fallen Empire starts with you meeting on Darth Marr's ship. No matter what side you are, you're meeting on Darth Marr's ship. You say a quippy one-liner to your... I don't know how they chose it, but like the main person, because it's not the first companion every single time, but it's like the main person that guides your ship from Rise of the Cartel to now. You give them quippy like, yo, get some gas while we're here and stuff. Shouldn't be gone long kind of thing. Go meet Marr. And while you're meeting Marr, of course, things don't go as planned. And this ginormous fleet of ships, like absolutely ginormous, called the Eternal Fleet, appears out of hyperspace and starts shooting at you immediately. Which, terrifying. So you have to go through the ship, and you're fighting all these sky troopers and mobs and trying to get to your own ship. But your own ship has to take off without you because of the fact that the way to it is blocked. So you release the docking clamp, and you actually get the option of telling them to stay and fight, or stay and go get, or flee and go get help. And it's not a good or bad option. It's just a neutral option for both, and it's such a good story writing right there. It's like perfect. So no matter what you do, they will escape. And then you're fighting more through it, and then eventually Darth Marr and you make it down to the engine room, where you learn that the hyperdrive is completely dismantled. The shields will only last a little bit longer. You're kind of floating dead. So then it becomes a light side, dark side option of, do you tell people to abandon ship via the escape pods, which you can't reach because you're in the engine room, or do you... I think the option is literally called ramming speed, which is hilarious to me, but yeah, the dark side option is ramming speed, which you're literally ramming into the closest ship. Yeah, so it's... And then there's this huge explosion, and plot armor saves you and Darth Marr, but everybody else either dies or escapes. And you're taken to the Eternal Empire of Zakuul. And oh my god, Zakuul is like the most replayable thing I've ever had, and it's so much fun. I'm gonna give you probably the briefest rundown, because it's really something that you have to do, and it's such a fun expansion. So the first, because that was the prologue to it, the first chapter is you landing in Zakuul. You are literally in chains, like not in chains, I think they're cuffs, they're special cuffs that they can't use force powers or whatever, because Darth Marr doesn't try to choke a fool while he's in chains. You meet Prince Arkin, who is this sorry, Bioware, stereotypical bad guy. He just looks like a bad guy. And he takes you on this super long walk and talks to you and everything, which is pretty fun, because he does also have different lines for each of your characters. So he'll be like, you came from nothing and you became like a dark lord, or you came from nothing and became the best bounty hunter in the galaxy without doing anything. And it's really cool because they change it for each person. And you walk into this throne room and you meet the Emperor Valkorion, who Darth Marr calls bullshit on. Because guess what? It's Emperor Vitiate in a new skin. So, they have a whole exchange between Darth Marr and Valkorion. And to be fair, Valkorion's a better name than Vitiate, sorry. In which Valkorion asks, we don't have to fight, you can kneel again. And he takes off the wrist, I'm gonna call them chains because my brain's blanking. The chains for Marr, just Marr. You're still trapped. And Darth Marr says probably one of my favorite lines is, I will never again kneel to you. Because he wants to protect the Empire. He wants to protect the Sith Empire and keep that thing. So Darth Maul is probably one of my favorite characters, because he's so, like, he's an asshole, but he's like a righteous asshole, which sounds really bad. So he does all these cool moves, throwing cool off of a giant bridge, which I feel bad for those fellas. And then he goes to attack the Emperor, and the Emperor just kind of flicks his wrist, sends his ginormous ball of lightning at him, and basically, I don't want to say vaporizes Darth Maul in his armor, and Darth Maul's dead. You could have chilled with him for like 5 minutes. And then Valkorian's daughter, Valen, High Justice Valen, gets everybody out of the room, so it's just you, Ark, and Valkorian. And then you get the same question. Will you kneel, or will you follow Valkorian? And he'll give you some of his power. Because he recognizes you as not exactly his equal, but one of the only people that could stand up to him. If you're the Jedi, obviously you can stand up to him because you've killed him already. And it's... I'm gonna have to do this. Either way, either you accept the power from him, and then Arkin kills him, or he sends Arkin at you when you refuse, and then Arkin throws you your weapon of choice, lightsaber, gun, whatever, and then fights his father for a bit, and then you shoot him when Valkorian's kill him when Valkorian's kind of has his back turned to you. It's kind of a cheap shot, but so either way, Valkorian dies. But he's the Emperor, so he doesn't die, and he does probably one of the coolest things I have seen in a video game. It's probably done 1 billion times in video games. I've never seen it done this well. Valkorian's soul goes into your body and knocks you flat, like completely unconscious. And then Arkin blames you for killing his father, and he becomes Emperor of Zakul. But while you were unconscious, you are dragged to a carbonite chamber, and you're frozen. I've only seen one other game, like RPG, an MMO game, like do this. You're basically dead, and you have to fight through this dead world. The only other game I've seen do this is ArenaNet's Guild Wars 2. And if this this thing goes on, if this podcast goes on, we will talk about that, because Guild Wars 2 is probably one of my favorites. Going back to SWTOR though, while you're in the carbonite chamber, the carbonite freezing starts to kill you because it's imperfect. But if Valkorian starts to save you and bring you down memory lane, telling you that you have a greater purpose, you have a greater destiny, you can't die, because you two are now linked. It's literally in your body. And so you go through all these memory lanes, into Ziost, and to Coruscant, and Orcas. Seeing old enemies from your story quests, seeing your companions alive and then dead, which is really cool. And then at the end, you're fighting. You can either ask for Valkorian's power or not to help against a super, super big mob, which is sorry, Bioware, super, super easy to defeat, but it's meant to be. And then you feel like you're slowly dying, but Valkorian informs you are not dying, we are being reborn. And the first voice you hear in a very long time says, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna hurt. And it is the fabulous Lana Beniko, who has taken you out of carbonite and shot you with a stim of some sort. I'm assuming a culto stim. it doesn't specify. It's something to help with your carbonite poisoning. And you kind of escape from Zakul. You have, while very weak. And you do. You escape from Zakul, and it's such a cool thing. Obviously, I'm going to paraphrase the rest of it. You go to kill Archon, you meet Senya, you meet Koth Vortenna, who is... Senya and Koth Vortenna... Tenya? Koth, have the best dynamic in the world because they hate each other. But it kind of becomes a mutual, like, you're cool. I still don't like you, but you're cool. By the end of it, you meet all these old characters, you meet some of the companions from that, like, old school days. So, like, Trooper. The Trooper has Old Havoc Squad. The first companion you get as Havoc Squad is Major Jorgen. Eric Jorgen. He is a Cathar. He's straight to the roles. He's freaking adorable. When I was playing my Trooper, my Trooper and him were a pair. So when we go and meet Jorgen and the Havoc Squad, because he's taken over Havoc Squad since you're gone, and you've been posthumously given the rank of Colonel, because they think you're dead. When you meet Jorgen, he says, I can't remember the exact line, but it's like, freeze, wait, no, I'm seeing things. It's like the cutest thing ever, and he's like, he can't believe you're alive, and I'm pretty damn sure you kiss. Or you drag him into a kiss or something. It's really cute. But you're gonna meet all these people from different companions. You get to hang out with Cleo, even though Cleo is an Imperial agent companion and you're a Jedi Knight. You're gonna meet a lot of different people, and then eventually you face Archon. You defeat him, but you can either... I haven't done this part yet, so I don't know if you can actually. You can kill him or let him go, which, like I said, I haven't done that. It's really hard to do the Sith side on Knights of the Fallen Empire if you have a bunch of empathy like I do. But yeah, so you do that. Senya takes Archon away while leaving Valen in an exploding ship. And then that's the end of the Knights of the Fallen Empire. You defeat Archon and you're just kind of like, cool, I'm a commander of a alliance that's both Imperial and Republic. But I will mention, in this part... no, actually I'm going to go to the next part. So then, the fourth expansion is called the Knights of the Eternal Throne, which is still in Zakul. But this time it's Valen, Empress Valen, who is... Valen's one of my favorite characters, story-wise, because she's psychotic. And whoever voices Valen is, like, one of my favorite voice actors, and I don't even know who they are, and they do Valen so well. Because she can go from talking normally to... And then says, like, she sounds kind of innocent when she's talking, because she's basically a child with powers. She'll go, we'll just bombard them all and make pretty glass out of their ashes. She does it so well. I don't know who it is. I will find it and credit it on the actual visuals. Whoever plays Valen is fantastic, and I love her so much. But yeah, so your new fight is with Valen, but Valen can't be reasoned with like Archon can, because guess what? Archon's back if you didn't kill him. He's now on your side with Senya. He has been redeemed. He's no longer dark side. His orange eyes are now bright blue. He's lost his creepy mask. He's still has robot arm, but it's not covered with a sleeve. He's cool. He's a chill character. But now you need to fight against his crazy sister. So you fight against Valen. And then the whole thing, you're chasing her she has conditioning too. You fight her. And yeah, you actually have to kill her. But when she dies, you notice the same thing that happened with Valkorion happens to you now, in which power goes into you. because the Knights of the Eternal Throne is not over yet. Because by the time you go get said throne, the Zakulan throne, guess who appears again? Valkorion. And he completely takes you over. The only way you save yourself, which is one of the freaking coolest things I've ever seen a game do, because not even Guild Wars did this. You take on his form, so you're playing in his model. It's still your voice coming out of it, but it's his model. And you fight to get your memories back, and then you fight to save your spirit with a Datacron, and then you fight a Valkorion-controlled Valen again, which is a super easy fight because I know how to cheat it now. And then it's like you, Senya, and Arkin and Valen all kind of get Valkorion down onto his knees and weak. And you officially kill the Emperor. Like, well, we'll talk about that in a second. You kill the Emperor, and it's such a big thing. You can feel it in the Force if you're a Jedi or Sith. He's gone. He's completely gone. You're yourself again. And now you just have a throne. So you can either be a peacekeeper or a warmonger, because that's the light and dark side option. And that's the end of the Eternal Throne. And it's such great. They do the story of the Fallen Empire and the Eternal Throne so well. And I play it so often. Because I just love it. It gives you all these options that are not light and dark. It gives you an entire chapter where you were sneaking into the belly of the beast. It gives you an entire chapter where you are running from, because you don't have hope. So you're running from the people that are trying to kill you. It keeps you engaged. Like, it has great music. It has great visuals. It's like one of my favorite places. My favorite expansions, two of them. Another side note, they do details so well in these cinematics, because most of the Knights of the Eternal Throne and Knights of the Eternal Empire is cinematic based. Like, you're playing through a cinematic, which is cool. But like scenes with when you're first meeting Valkorion, the room is full of these Knights of Zakul and full of these, like, he's protected. He's like wall to wall, like, protected. But then later on, you'll see, like, 5 years later, there's half as many guards on Emperor Arkin, and then a third of as many guards on Empress Valen, because the children have been killing them when they displease them. They just kind of do what they want. But they kind of show it, but they don't show it. And you kind of have to just, like, look out for these details. And it's fantastic that Bioware even thought about showing that detail. The kids are full of themselves and just like, I'm powerful, I can kill who I want. And it works with their overall character, because their characters are full of themselves. Arkin is full of himself and his power. It's the entire reason he blames everything on you when either he kills the Emperor or you kill the Emperor. He killed his twin brother for power. Valen's insane, so she just kind of kills who she wants. But she's probably one of the most powerful Force users besides the Sith Emperor. But it gives you these minute details in these cinematics that you never thought to kind of think about, but Bioware does it so well, and I love playing through it every single time and finding a different detail I didn't notice before. And it's just amazing. Great job, Bioware. The fifth and current expansion is the SWTOR Onslaught, which happens, I think, a couple of years after Eternal Throne. And I'm sorry, it's not my favorite so far, because it doesn't have the same kind of replayability, but I've also not played the Sith side. So in this one, you're trying to get the Jedi back if you're a Republic. I haven't played the Sith side, so I can't say that side, unfortunately. You're trying to save the Jedi, trying to keep things chill I'm trying to, unfortunately, stop Darth Malgus again, because somehow he survived an exploding ship and being cut down in half. But details, am I right? Sorry, Bioware, I don't like it. But that's not the only thing. They also bring back another one. They bring back the Sith Emperor. But not in the same form. They bring him back in his original form. Tenebrae, I think is his name? Yeah, Tenebrae, so Latin for darkness, so haha, cute. In which you fight alongside a couple of, like, old friends from, like, the Jedi Knight days, so, like, Kira Carson and Lord Scourge. And you finally defeat him in this, like, the battle against him is amazing. The story leading up to it is like, god damn it. Really? After that, you're also saving Corellia from Darth Malgus' forces. Oh, that's actually before. And then currently it's not doing anything. I haven't added a whole lot. So Onslaught's not super my favorite, but it's also, I just probably have to give it a chance. But yeah, that is the story of what I'm calling Ilum and Beyond. Okay. So now that I've just gushed about Knights of the Eternal Empire, Fallen Empire, and Eternal Throne, I'm going to tell you why I feel like it's so replayable. And I've kind of mentioned it already. The replayability comes from the fact that it gives you more options than the 3 that it used to give you, which was usually nice option, neutral option, and either mean and or snarky option. It gives you these options of you can use this unlimited power you have in you, or you can just kind of see where things go, which is usually dark and light. But then it gives you options like sending your companions away in the middle of a giant battle, siding with certain people, and it gives you these neutral options that you never had before, and you can actually choose your story that way. But not only that, it gives you these characters that were not so black and white and kind of like, it gives you these characters that you don't expect. Like Arkin. Arkin has a redemption arc, which is pretty normal for a villain, but it's a major redemption arc by which the end of the Eternal Throne, you can flirt with him and become his immediate significant other. Why? Because sexy time. I don't know. I really don't know. That one kind of confuses me. Like, you don't spend a whole lot of time with him. And he does kind of take away 5 years of your life. But it gives you these characters that are so intriguing. The music's amazing. It gets you in there. It kind of also drags you into it because sometimes the quests just kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then stops. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it gives you... It plays more like a story that you're reading. That you get to actually play and fight in. Than just... Oh, okay. I can sit here AFK for 5 minutes and not die by some random thing on the random mob. Like the first couple of worlds. This then actually feels like you have... Like, you can still do that. But it feels like you have more input of, like... You're sneaking through a city, so you can't stay there for long enough. And then you need to get to these places before it gives you that sense of, I need to get the stuff done fast. I need to get here and there. I need to get in and out as a cool. I need to finish sabotaging. I need to do this and I need to do that. It gives you that cool pressure. Maybe it's just me. Maybe because I'm a dork. But it gives you a sense of that you actually belong to the story and not just like, hey, you're an adventurer. Let me give you a quest. Go kill some sheep over there. It gives you this kind of feeling that you belong. So, personally, out of this entire thing, SWTOR and KOTOR KOTOR I have so many like nostalgia memories with, and I have it on my Steam and I need to replay it. Like I really do, because it's such a good game. Good games, pardon me. But SWTOR is just like, it's a free to play game, so you can play this completely free. I think actually you can play the entire thing up until Knights of the Fallen Empire, in which you need to pay for the chapters, which kind of see, which is obvious. Unless you do a quick subscription or preferred member, then you get them anyway. It's fun. Overall, I think SWTOR probably ranks pretty high. I will give it an 8 out of 10. They do pretty damn well. There are some things that I'm just kind of like, they could be better. Again, I'm not a professional. I'm just saying my own opinion. So, overall, I would say if you have the time or you have the patience, I would either go through and play Jedi Knight is pretty damn fun. They have probably one of the coolest things where you get to go kill the Emperor. But the Imperial Agent and the Republic Trooper are the two that are super high on the list for you to go play. Especially the Imperial Agent, because it actually feels like you were being an agent. You were sneaking around. You're trying to find these codes. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for SWTOR. I think I'd probably rank it a bit higher if certain options weren't there. I think one of my major issues is a lot of the times you're on the scroll wheel of responses, you can't tell what they're going to respond as, because sometimes it's not the good, neutral, bad kind of response. It's just kind of like good, sarcastic. And it's like you can never tell because you can't read it. And I wish they kind of put in brackets like they do like for flirting and other things, like sarcastic, for that, because a lot of times I'll say something to a character and I'm like, that is not what the bracket said, and it comes out like either an asshole remark or it's just completely not what I said. So I think there, and then a little bit of gameplay issues in which, like, a lot of times super important, like one of the super important bosses for one of the stories chapters in Knights of the the Fallen Empire backs away for a little bit and lets a walker come down and you fight that, and then comes back. But I think out of the 6 times I've done it, only 1 time has he actually come back and he falls through the world where you can't hit him but your companions can, so your companions just sit there and beat him down for 15 minutes. I've done like 3 bug reports for that. Drum and Koss, if you're going a flight path into the Sith Sanctum of the Koss Citadel, you fly through the world, literally. So I might have a clip of it by the time this is all said and done. So would I say SWTOR is playable? Yes. Would I say it's perfect? No. They unfortunately fall to the same kind of category of MMOs, of gold farmers and people hacking and toxic places, which hilariously, the toxic chats I've usually found are on the Republic side and not the Empire side. The Empire usually has more philosophical debates, which is out of left field for me, but it's there. You get to go to all these places like Alderaan and Hoth and Tatooine. I don't know if anybody would really want to go to Tatooine, but you get to go to Tatooine. You get to go to these like places that you hear about in the Star Wars universe or the KOTOR universe, and you're just like, oh my god, I gotta go there, I got a quest. And they have gorgeous places. Like, I think one of my favorite skyboxes in the entire thing is Ilum, which I should have a picture up, but I'm gonna throw it in there. Elim has this gorgeous skybox. And it's just like, they done well. Bioware has done very good with the designing of this game. But just little things. And that's why it's an 8 out of 10 for me. So, this episode was a test to not only see if people would like this, or if I would like this. If there's kind of good, like, yeah, I do more, I will most likely do more episodes. Because my friends are tired of hearing me tangent about good games. So I now get a tangent to the wall and to you guys, people that care about this. If I do another episode, it would most likely be on Guild Wars 2's Jormag versus World of Warcraft's Enzoth, and why they're both kind of in the same boat. I do want to thank you if you stuck around this long, and I do hope you continue to stay epic.